Still at it, old man? Trying to win yourself a medal with that mower?" That's what a young soldier laughed as he passed the front gate of Fort Ashton. The old man didn't respond, just gave a quiet smile, the kind that forms slowly in the creases of a weathered face. He went right on trimming the grass, as if the words had drifted by like a breeze. Most assumed he was just a nobody, maybe a local, maybe a retiree too proud to let go of a routine. But minutes later, when a military vehicle pulled up and a full-bird colonel stepped out, everything changed. The officer didn't stroll past or offer a casual nod. No, he came to attention, snapped a salute. The same soldiers who had laughed earlier now stood frozen in disbelief. Because the man with the mower? He wasn't just a gardener. He was the one who had once led them through fire. Every morning, at precisely 0600 hours, he was there. Old boots, worn jeans, a faded army green cap, pushing a battered Toro lawnmower along the grass lining the barracks road. The mower looked like it should have given up years ago, just like the man behind it. But somehow, both kept going. The rhythm of the engine sputtering, the low hum of steel blades slicing grass, these sounds became a kind of unspoken ritual on base, a routine few questioned, and fewer understood. At first, no one paid him much attention. Why would they? Some thought he was just a harmless local, picking up a few extra bucks doing odd jobs. Others figured he was one of those veterans who couldn't quite let go of the uniform, haunted by old wars, clinging to old habits. A few whispered that he might just be confused, a lost soul drifting through memories of service long ended. But here's the thing. He never asked for a dime. Not once. Years ago, the base had outsourced all grounds keeping to private contractors. There were no official positions left for someone like him, and yet he showed up, day after day, week after week, year after year. He did the work the contractors missed. He trimmed the forgotten edges. He straightened, bent signposts. He picked up trash others stepped over. When someone asked him why, he'd offer a simple reply. Routine keeps the mind sharp. His voice was quiet but clear, like stones that had been shaped smooth by decades of rushing water. There was no bitterness in his tone, no need for recognition, just a sense of purpose, steady and silent. The younger soldiers mostly ignored him. A few nodded politely when passing. Most didn't bother. Some smirked behind his back. "Old man thinks he's still in uniform," one private muttered to his buddy. "Bet he got discharged as a PFC and now pretends he was somebody." A newly transferred sergeant, eager to impress during morning PT, joked loud enough for all to hear. "Pick it up, ladies! Don't make me get the old guy to mow you into shape!" The laughter rolled across the group. The old man didn't flinch. He just adjusted his cap, the same faded one with no rank, no insignia, no unit patch. Only sun-bleached cloth and sweat-stained seams that had endured countless seasons of heat and rain. That Wednesday, something happened. While trimming near the flagpole, just before 0800, the old man paused. As the national anthem rose from the loudspeakers, he stood at attention, and in that moment, he changed. His back straightened, his shoulders squared, and his body, usually bent by time, seemed to remember itself. Decades peeled away as discipline took over. Nearby, a group of recruits waiting for their morning briefing noticed. One of them chuckled. Another pulled out a phone and snapped a picture. He uploaded it with a caption, "Stolen Valor." Get a load of this guy. The post would go viral by the end of the week. But the old man, he didn't say a word. He finished his mowing like he always did, wiped down the machine, stashed it neatly in a small shed by the side gate, then walked off base with the same quiet dignity he'd walked in with, passing by the very same soldiers who had mocked him, without a glance or a grudge. What they didn't know was that the man's name was Richard Hale. And once upon a time, long before he became a ghost with a mower, he wore stars on his shoulders, not grass stains on his knees. Word spread around Fort Ashton like wildfire. There was an old guy mowing the grass outside the barracks. For free. No one had hired him. No one had authorized it. And yet, he kept showing up like clockwork. Among the younger recruits, it became a running joke. General of Grass, they called him. Some even started saluting him mockingly when he walked by. Others made up legends for fun. He probably thinks this is still Nam, one laughed. Bet he sleeps with a walkie-talkie under his pillow. Most assumed he was just a harmless eccentric, a broken-down veteran trying to relive a past no one else remembered. The kind of person you roll your eyes at, then forget about 5 seconds later. But while they laughed, the photo that had been posted online, the one with the snide "Stolen Valor" caption, was making its way through military circles. At first, it stirred mild curiosity, then concern. Veterans groups began commenting. Some worried it was a mental health issue. Others said it was a sad reflection of how America treated its aging heroes. A few angrily demanded to know why an elderly man was being allowed near a military base without supervision or clearance. Eventually, the complaints reached base administration. Unknown civilian regularly accessing restricted area without identification. Potential security breach. Mower seen within perimeter. Who authorized this? The days when local civilians could casually walk onto a base were long gone. Newer protocols were airtight. Cameras, fences, keycard gates, Fort Ashton had modernized. And yet somehow this old man had bypassed it all. With a lawnmower. Security was called. That Friday morning, just as the sun crested the horizon, 2 young military police officers approached him. He was trimming the edge of the parade ground, his attention focused on the grass, moving slowly but with care, measuring, adjusting, perfecting. "Sir," one of the MPs said cautiously, hand resting on his belt near his holster. "We're going to need to see your base access credentials." The old man straightened, not out of fear, but out of habit. He wiped sweat from his brow with a handkerchief so faded it looked almost translucent. "Don't have any current ones," he said calmly. "Never needed them before." The other MP spoke next. His voice was professional but firm. "You can't be on base without proper authorization, sir. This area is restricted. How have you been getting in?" "Side gate," Hale replied simply. "Been using it for 7 years." The 2 officers exchanged glances. That gate was supposed to be under surveillance, always locked, always monitored, yet somehow it had opened for him. "Sir, we'll need you to come with us, just to sort this out." The old man didn't argue, didn't resist. He simply shut off his mower, rolled it to the edge of the walkway, and followed them. Inside the security office, a young lieutenant reviewed his information. Frustration flickered across the officer's face as he shuffled through outdated paperwork and mismatched records. "You don't have a work badge," the lieutenant said. "You're not listed as a contractor. You're not on any authorized personnel lists. You can't just be here." Richard Hale didn't interrupt. He just reached into his back pocket, pulled out a folded yellowing document, and handed it over. It was his official Army retirement form, dated 1987, signed by then Secretary of the Army. "I served here once," Hale said softly, "just keeping the place sharp. General Matthews knew, so did Colonel Bergman before him." The names triggered brief recognition. Matthews, Bergman. Yes, they were former commanders, but they had both rotated out years ago. The lieutenant scanned the paper again. It listed Richard Hale, yes, but the rank column was faded, barely legible. "Look, Mr. Hale," the lieutenant said, tone softening slightly. "I appreciate your service, I really do, but that paper, it's not valid here anymore. It doesn't give you access. Times have changed." And just like that, the man who had walked onto base every morning for 7 years was escorted off it. His mower was impounded as abandoned property. He was given no citation, no reprimand, just a polite but firm request not to return. He didn't argue, He didn't plead. He simply walked away with his hands in his pockets and a nod to the guards at the main gate, who watched him pass with uncertain expressions, not quite sure what had just happened. That weekend, another photo appeared online. This time it wasn't mocking. It showed the old man being escorted from base, his mower nowhere in sight, taken by one of the same recruits who had laughed at him just days before, only now. No one was laughing. The comments exploded. What harm was he doing? Leave the poor guy alone. He's probably served more than the whole unit combined. We've failed our veterans again. But then, one comment appeared. It didn't yell, it didn't speculate, it didn't question. It simply stated, "That's Lieutenant General Richard Hale, former commander of the 3rd Infantry Division, decorated with the Distinguished Service Cross and Silver Star. I served under him during Operation Urgent Fury. He commanded Fort Ashton from 1982 to 1987. This is disgraceful." The name on the account? Colonel David Rohr, the current commanding officer of Fort Ashton. He had been away at Pentagon briefings the past 2 weeks. Now he was back, and he was furious. Colonel David Rohr didn't wait for Monday. By Saturday morning, he was standing in front of the base gates in full-dress uniform, waiting, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He didn't have to wait long. The sun was barely up when a familiar figure came trudging down the shoulder of the road, pushing nothing but air. The mower was gone, but the stride was still the same, slow, steady, unbent. "General Hale," Colonel Rohr said, stepping forward. "No salute, just the name," said with weight, respect, memory. The old man looked up. Recognition dawned slowly. "David," he said after a moment, "you made colonel. Guess I lost that bet." Rohr almost smiled, almost, but the emotion behind his eyes stopped it short. "You didn't lose anything, sir, but I think we did." He gestured behind him. The side gate, the one no one could explain, stood wide open. No one had unlocked it. No one admitted to it. It just was. Rohr held out a key card, his own. "Official access, if you still want it." But the old man shook his head. "No need," Hale said. "My time's up. It was good while it lasted." Rohr didn't argue. He simply nodded and said, "Then at least let us say thank you properly." Monday morning came, but this time something was different. Instead of morning drills or routine patrols, every company was assembled on the parade ground. Officers, recruits, members of parliament, even civilian contractors were called in. The air buzzed with speculation. No one knew why they were there. Then the loudspeaker crackled to life. "Attention all personnel, present arms." From behind the reviewing stand, a small procession emerged. At the center of it was him, Richard Hale, dressed in his old uniform, pressed and pristine, medals gleaming, shoulders square, boots polished. A figure out of time, but not out of place. A line of young officers stepped forward and saluted him. Not mockingly this time, not out of pity, but with reverence. Colonel Rohr took the podium. "Some of you may know this man only as the guy with the mower," he began. "Some of you may have thought he was confused or even lost. But I want to be clear today. We were the ones who were lost." He paused, looked over the crowd, then turned to Hale. "This is Lieutenant General Richard Hale, 3 combat tours, recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, and 2 Bronze Stars, former commander of this base. The barracks you sleep in, he ordered them built. The training doctrine we still use, he wrote it. The soldiers whose names are etched on the memorial wall, he led most of them into battle and brought back every man he could." The field was silent. Not a cough, not a footstep. "You want to talk about honor? Discipline? Service? You've been walking past the definition of it every morning, and most of you never even knew." Rohr stepped down, walked toward Hale. Then he did something no one expected. He saluted, and one by one every soldier on the field followed. Hundreds of arms rose in unison. A wave of silence and steel. For a moment, the old general stood motionless. Then he gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. He didn't smile, he didn't cry. He simply whispered, just loud enough for Roar to hear, "Now that's a proper mow down." Roar laughed, the tension finally breaking, and the field echoed with it. Not mockery, not derision, but release, respect, even joy. Later that day, Colonel Roar made it official. The section of parade grounds the general had tended for nearly a decade was renamed Hale Field. A new bronze plaque was installed near the flagpole. In honor of Lieutenant General Richard Hale, who served in silence, led with integrity, and never left his post. The gate he used? It now bears his name, Hale Gate, and no one walks through it without noticing the newly engraved words overhead, "Steel sharpens steel." In the weeks that followed, something subtle but powerful began to change at Fort Ashton. The jokes stopped, the snickers disappeared, and in their place, reverence, curiosity, stories. Recruits started reading up on old generals. Sergeants talked more about legacy. Discipline got sharper. Salutes got crisper. Because suddenly, they understood. Service didn't end when the uniform came off. Some soldiers kept serving even when no one was watching, even if all they had left was a lawnmower and a promise to keep things sharp.